All right, folks, welcome aboard Missionary Ridge Local Train 100, departing Grand Junction with East Chattanooga as our destination. Now we have to travel west to go to East Chattanooga, that makes sense. But right now we're traveling east. Has anybody told the engineer that we're going the wrong way? Jason, our trainman, he's on the back of the train. Maybe he will do it for us. Actually, what we're doing is we are turning the train around so we can travel in the correct direction towards East Chattanooga. Before I get to all that, I want to just point out something here. These tracks that you see on the left-hand side of the train up on the embankment, that's a double-track main line built by the Southern Railway in the early 1950s to go around Missionary Ridge. Now I'm going to explain a little more of that in a second, but I want you to hear Jason as he talks to our engineer, Bo, up in our Locomotive Southern 5000, because he's going to talk to him in order to do our shove. Shove is a reverse movement of a train. So we get to listen in on Jason. Jason, don't say anything you don't want in public.
Whatever.
All right, I'll translate that for us. He's on the point, meaning he has assumed the responsibility for the train. In a reverse movement, the engineer cannot see where he's going, like you have to with two rails, right? Well, he has to know if the track is clear. So Jason is on the point of the train to give him instructions. He said he's got a green signal on the ground, which we're passing by right here, which confirms that the switch is lined up for the east leg of our Y, W-Y-E. And he's telling our engineer, Bo, that he's got 3 coaches, each coach 90 foot long, times 3, 270 feet. Bo knows that he can stop the train in half that distance, 135 feet, should he have to. Now you may think, well, what could go on here? Well, plenty. We've had cars run off the road out there and end up on our tracks. We've had cars make a wrong turn and end up right in front of us on the Y. We've had all kinds of crazy things happen. So, the person on point is very important. So every time you hear the horn of 5000, he is acknowledging Jason's instructions. Now, you may not know it also, but the conductor is the person in charge of the train. And that would be me. My name is Matt. I'm the conductor, as well as your voice from the ceiling. The conductor actually controls the train. He tells the engineer when to go forward, backwards, how fast, when, and where. The engineer's only responsibility is following the directions of the conductor to operate the locomotive. So if you are on a passenger train, say you're running along with Amtrak, going from Atlanta down to New Orleans for a little festival or something, make sure the conductor's your buddy. You don't want to cross him. So, now we're at the bottom of the east leg. Our locomotive will be now at the front of the west leg. Now we are a historic railroad. We're going to talk about the history of our coaches, our equipment, and our railway, versus a scenic railway, which would have already pointed out things like my favorite groundhog over there. His name is Spike over on the left. And that my favorite trees over there, the one with all the branches and the green leaves. We're not going to do that. We are going to point out things along the way that are of historic value, because Chattanooga has a lot of railroad history. At one point in the 30s and 40s, there were up to 7 railroads meandering back and forth in and out through the city. It's just chock full of railway tracks. And if you're out and about in Chattanooga, you might just take a look around and you spot some rails going off into a field somewhere. Well, those belong to somebody at some point. I told you not to say anything that you didn't want public. Oh, there we go. Now as we pull forward on the west leg, for the directional purposes of our train, The left side of the train will have the display yard on it, and the right side will have Grand Junction. Now the display yard, we have fallen flag railroads represented. Many fallen flag railroads. In fact, fallen flags do not operate today, but they do constitute the 5 Class 1 railroads that are operating on our railways in America. So in our display yard, you'll find the NC and STL, Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railway. You'll also find the L&N, Louisville and Nashville, the Wabash, the ACL, the Atlantic Coastline, just to name a few. So after our journey today, if it's not raining, you might want to wander through the display yard and look at some of this equipment. And also your ticket to ride today gets you into the display or exhibition building on the other side of the parking lot. It is open till 5 o'clock. So your ticket to ride gets you the Missionary Ridge as well as the display building. Now as we travel along, we will be following the original right-of-way that was established back in 1859 by the East Tennessee and Georgia Railway. These tracks were hand-laid. They were built by hand. So what's interesting enough is the old ET&G would meander back and forth from the right side of the train to the left, to the right. And we're going to explain that because the original roadbed is actually to the left side of the train. It's that gravel road about 15 feet below us. That is the original roadbed for the right-of-way. Now, the ET&G merged with a number of other railroads to become the Southern Railway in 1894. The Southern Railway came in the first decade of the 1900s, and they elevated the line and also straightened it out with 2 long straightaways and 1 curve just before Missionary Ridge. Now the reason they had to elevate it is because Chattanooga was extremely prone to flooding prior to the TVA project, building the Chickamauga Dam during the Great Depression. Now we have an example of that flooding coming up on the left. You'll see a section of track on that roadbed, a sign marking the Great Flood of 1867, and a tree with a yellow line, which is 9 feet above the rails. It's very difficult to run steam engines underwater. And the Southern Railway, frankly, the crews were tired of swimming out to their locomotives. So the creek that would rise up and flood out the railroad we're crossing right now, the South Chickamauga Creek. Right now it's 67 feet below us. So for it to flood out the railway, it would have to rise up over 70 feet. Hold it up to the window as we pass through the tunnel. You'll see just how close we are to the walls. And in some places, that's just 12 inches. So if you're riding inside the open air section of 390 or in a vestibule, please keep all arms, hands, legs, feet, and relatives inside the train. It is very close coming through the tunnel. February, the week of Valentine's Week, leading right up to Valentine's Night, we offer dinner trains. We post those trains in October, and in 48 hours, all 7 nights of trains are booked. That's why I encourage the guys to forget the flowers and get the train. So we're entering East Chattanooga Depot. This is our East Chattanooga yard. It's Friday. We still have crews inside the shop. So that means it's an active rail yard. The equipment can move without notice because we're on a tour. We're not in their loop of communication. So for your safety, and railroad safety is highly important on our list, and passenger safety comes first. Please follow a few rules that we have here so we have a safe time here as well as a fun time. So as we travel along on our journey, we're going to head down to the turntable for turning our locomotive around for our return trip. When we exit the train, we're going to turn left. I need the whole passenger group to stay together as a group. Okay, it's a guided tour, so we'll stay on the walkways as we travel to the turntable. After the turntable demonstration, we will make a brief stop in our back shops just to show you what we do there and how we restore and service our equipment. And then we'll reboard the train and come back on the train and head over to Grand Junction. So the depot is open. There are snacks in the depot as well as a restroom. There's also a restroom facility between the turntable and the back shops. So as we exit the train, we're going to take a left and head on down to the turntable. So we're going to start that up pretty much as everybody gets there. So please be careful stepping off the train as the steps may be wet. And please wait for the train to come to a stop and we announce that it's safe to exit the train. Alright folks, we're crossing back over South Chickamauga Creek. Soon we'll be pulling up to Grand Junction. On behalf of your train crew today, we want to thank you for riding with us on the Missionary Ridge Local. And if you have an opportunity to come and ride other trains, the best way to do that is to get on our website, TVRail.com. That's Tennessee Valley, TVRail.com. Go to the calendar and the day you plan to be here in Chattanooga and see what trains we're running. Now, if we happen to be running steam engine, either 4501 or 630, it will say steam powered. So that lets you know in advance that you'll be riding behind a steam engine. A lot of people like to do that. They like riding in our open coach 1000 when we have it hooked up. They like to breathe in that smoke and cinders while they're going down the tracks. They hear the clickety-clack and they hear the steam engine thumping down the rails. That's what it's like rolling down the rails in the 30s and 40s. But that's what we're about here, railroad history. So on behalf of your train crew, we want to thank you for helping us keep American railroad history on the rails. And we do hope you have a safe 4th weekend. Take care, folks.